Qatar spent $200 billion to host a month of football. Let that number sink in. Not 200 million, not 2 billion, 200 billion. That's more than every previous World Cup combined. And the wildest part? They're not even a football country. So why do nations practically beg FIFA to let them bankrupt themselves? There's a reason. Actually, there are several. And by the end of this video, you'll never watch a World Cup opening ceremony the same way again. Let's start with the obvious question. What exactly are countries paying for? When a nation wins the World Cup hosting bid, they don't just book some stadiums and call it a day. They're essentially agreeing to rebuild infrastructure from scratch. Roads, airports, hotels, transit systems, security networks. Brazil spent roughly $15 billion for 2014. Russia spent around $14 billion for 2018. South Africa spent $3 billion back in 2010, and that was considered modest at the time. Qatar? They built entirely new cities. You know the type of project that takes decades? They tried to do it in 10 years. In the desert! In summer! Here's where it gets interesting. Most of that money doesn't go toward football at all. Think about it. A World Cup lasts 32 days. 32 days! The stadiums get used, the tourists come, the games are played, and then everyone goes home. So you've spent $15 billion on infrastructure for a one-month party? That sounds insane! And honestly, sometimes it is. But governments aren't stupid. At least they don't think they are. They're
making a bet, a very expensive bet. The theory is called the economic multiplier effect. In theory, every dollar spent on World Cup infrastructure generates more than a dollar back. Tourists spend money on hotels, food, transport, merchandise. Local businesses boom. Global companies set up regional offices. Investment flows in. The country gets a reputation boost that lasts for years. In theory, it pays for itself. In practice, it's complicated. Brazil is the perfect case study. They hosted the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympics back to back. The government promised it would transform the economy. And for a brief window, it looked like it might. Then the tourists left. Several of those brand new stadiums ended up being used for, and this is real, motorcycle parking. One city spent $300 million on a stadium that now hosts local league games with crowds of a few thousand people. The economists have a word for this: white elephants. Big, expensive things that look impressive and do almost nothing useful afterward.
But here's the thing. Not every host walks away with regret. Germany in 2006 is basically the gold standard. They called it the summer fairy tale. Hundreds of thousands of foreign visitors flooded in. The image of Germany transformed globally overnight. Suddenly it wasn't just efficient cars and serious engineering. It was beer gardens, open fan fests, and a country that genuinely knew how to have fun. Tourism numbers climbed for years afterward. The soft power gain was enormous. And soft power is the part that's almost impossible to put a number on, but governments absolutely obsess over it. Soft power, quickly, is the idea that you can influence people and countries not through force or money, but through reputation, through image, through culture. And hosting the World Cup is basically the single greatest soft power event on Earth. 3.5 billion people watch it. 3.5 billion! That's almost half the planet watching your country on television for a month straight. This sounds simple?
It isn't. Because FIFA knows exactly what they're sitting on, and they use it accordingly. When countries bid for the World Cup, they're essentially competing to give FIFA the best deal possible. Tax exemptions, free stadiums, government guarantees. FIFA itself pays almost nothing. The host country carries the cost. FIFA keeps the television rights, the sponsorship money, the licensing fees. FIFA made over $7 billion from the 2022 Qatar World Cup. Qatar spent $200 billion. You do that math. Some people call it the greatest negotiating coup in sports history. Others use less polite words.
And yet, countries keep lining up to bid. Saudi Arabia just won the rights to host 2034.
They're planning to spend somewhere north of $20 billion. Spain, Portugal, and Morocco are sharing 2030. The United States, Canada, and Mexico are hosting 2026. The appetite never dies. Why? Because the alternative is worse. If you don't host it, someone else does. And someone else gets the cameras, someone else gets the infrastructure investment, someone else gets 3.5 billion people learning to associate their country with celebration, football, and the greatest show on earth. In global competition, that's not nothing. That's potentially everything. So here's the real answer to why countries spend billions to host the World Cup. It's not just about football. It's never just about football. It's about rewriting how the world sees you. It's about fast-tracking infrastructure that would take generations otherwise. It's about telling investors, tourists, and foreign governments, we are here, we are ready, and we are worth your attention. Sometimes it works brilliantly. Sometimes you end up with a stadium full of motorcycles. But every 4 years, without fail, another country decides the gamble is worth it. Because the World Cup isn't just a tournament. It's the most expensive billboard in human history. And apparently, the waiting list to buy space on it never gets shorter.